Now from the nymph stage, we go into the emerger stage. And this is what I like to call the emerging dun. For this particular fly, it's going to have a trailing shuck out of Zelon, a body out of goose biot. The thorax is super fine dubbing. And then you can see the little legs here of Zelon sticking out both sides. And the winging material is called medallion sheeting. You can just see how that stuff glistens when the light hits it. Not only does it make it look more like the natural, but it also aids the angler in seeing it. Now let's tie this little critter here. To do that, we're going to use a Tiemco 101. Pick it up with my magnetized scissors. And we put it in the tip of AK's vise here. Now we're going to start by tying on our 8/0 thread right behind the eye. Trim off the excess. Now we're ready to tie in our trailing shuck and legs. And for that, we're going to use Zelon, a great synthetic material that John Betts came out with. And as you can see, it comes in a rope form. What we're going to do is kind of separate it. So we don't want to be using the whole rope. We want approximately 15 to 20 fibers. And if you have a little knot like that, if you take a mustache comb or a comb and just comb it out, you'll eliminate that problem. Trim it off. And now we're ready to tie it in. So we're going to lay one end of it out over the eye so it's fairly long. Then we begin tying it right behind the eye and wrap back. And all the while I'm pulling back with my left hand, making sure the material stays right on top of the hook shank. Then we trim it to about 3/4 the length of the hook shank, just like so. And then instead of having a blunt cut off end right here, we're going to come in and just kind of trim it at an angle, tapering it a little bit. And then you can rotate it around, just like so. And then we lock it back up into the 180-degree position. Now we're ready to tie in our biot. And for that, we're going to use a goose biot. And this particular goose biot is Canadian. And what makes that different is its color, as you'll be able to see as I wrap it forward. And what I'm going to do is I want the body to be nice and smooth. So when I peel it off from the stem, I'm going to look at it. Either it's going to have a notch on the bottom or a notch on the top. If you have, wherever that notch is, you want it to be towards the back of the hook so when you wrap it forward, you have a nice smooth body. If you have the notch facing forward and you start to wrap it, you're going to have like a small little ostrich ribbing to it. Some people like it. Myself, I don't. But the real test is the fish, and they really don't care which way you do it. So before I tie it in, and this goes with any type of biot you use, is you want to moisten it. I soak it in my mouth, but you can have some setting on a wet paper towel before you're tying. So we're going to tie it in tip first, bring our thread forward. Now this is a real critical point here. We want to just take and bend it over, grab it, so we have our first wrap. Then what we're going to do is come in with our hackle pliers, grab it, and then we're going to start wrapping it forward. And as I wrap forward, each wrap overlays the other one just by a little bit. so you have a nice, even, segmented body. And that's why I like the goose biot so much. For just about all my body material anymore, that's about all I use. Take off our hackle pliers and trim off the excess. Then make sure it's tied down nice and smooth. Now we're ready to tie in our winging material. For the winging material, we're going to use medallion sheeting. This is a synthetic winging material. What I do is I just hold it and just run my scissors up it, and snip, and then cut out that little section. And the width of this is approximately a quarter of the hook length of the shank here. We're going to take it in and we're going to do a series of figure eights, tying it in like we would a spent wing. So come in, take one wrap, cinch up, and as I do that, you can see how it scrunches up in there. And then come over the top, do the same thing, tighten up, and then take one wrap. Now as you can see there, we have it, the material's all gathered into a nice little spot right there. And then we're going to take and grab it so it's nice and even, just pull on both sides. Then we take a few more figure eights, make sure it's tied in there nice and tight. And then I take the thread behind the wing. And then we're going to stand the wing straight up and just kind of pinch it, just like that. And then we're going to lay it back. Then we'll come in with our scissors parallel to the hook shank. And just cut it so it's a little bit longer than the bend of the hook here. And then what we're going to do is come in and just trim off the wings a little bit, making it look more like the natural. Just like so. Then we just push the wings up out of the way. Now we're ready to add some dubbing. For the dubbing, I used to use rabbit all the time. That was my favorite dubbing. And then along came superfine dubbing. And this by far has become about the only dubbing I use for all my emergers and dry flies. Just because it's so fine, you can dub on your thread like you're not even using any dubbing. Another nice little trick to make sure your dubbing is super tight is just to put a little dubbing wax on your fingers as you're going along. Not only can you get your dubbing a lot tighter, it makes your fly more durable, plus it also adds to the waterproofness of the fly. Now we got some dubbing on there. Then we start wrapping behind the wing. And what we're doing is covering up where we tied off our biot and forming the back portion of the thorax. Then we'll take the wing furthest away from us, just fold it back, take one wrap in between the wings, fold the other wing towards us, back, take another wrap in there, doing a figure eight. Then we'll take a couple turns of dubbing right in front of the wings. Now what we're going to do is separate our zelon here into two equal groups. Take the one furthest from you and lay it alongside the shank, tie it down. Now pull the one towards me and lay it alongside the hook shank and tie it down. Now I'm ready to add a little more dubbing. Again, we're going to be wanting to dub it very thin. It's always easier to add dubbing than it is to take it off. And by dubbing thin, you can just basically sculpt your fly. It makes it appear a lot neater and it also makes it a lot tighter. Just like so. And now we're ready to whip finish it off. Take several turns, whip finish it, and do something I forgot to do on the last one, and that is to add a little head cement. And for head cement, I like to use Dave's Flex Cement. Just add a little drop on there just to add to the durability of the fly. And once that's done, we're going to take the Zelon, both pairs, and we're going to pull them straight down, and then lay them back towards the point of the hook. And we'll trim them right at the hook point. And just give it a snip. And that's the length of our legs. Then I just come in and kind of push them up a little bit. And that's what I call the emerging done.